cloud. Hey, welcome everybody. This is Dr. John Morgan. I'm here with Pastor Tim Hargrove, and this is People Prosper International's Empowerment Podcast. And today we're talking about the empowerment movement in the Philippines that we are working to develop. And I'm excited to talk to Pastor Tim about it today because, Tim, you just got back, man. How you feeling?
Tired.
Yeah, I bet.
I did a lot of sweating, John. And when you go from the desert to the tropics, and you can't see it in those pictures, but it's about 150 degrees and about 90% humidity.
I know.
And so, yeah. But
most of the places where we go, it's that way. And most of our work is in the global south, which is Asia, India, Africa, South America, Caribbean. So, man, we get a lot of that sweating it out stuff. That's for sure.
Yeah, but it was great. It was
and your luggage. Give us a luggage report, because on your previous trip, your luggage didn't make it. So no. That's hard to go 3 weeks on one pair of underwear. I'll tell you.
Oh my goodness! I took half with me on the plane, and I checked half, and then I got there and I got back, and all luggage made it. So hallelujah.
Good. So you had a little bit of a backup plan, but you didn't even need it. So that's good.
Didn't need it.
So you were there 3 weeks, and met a lot of people, were involved in a lot of training events, and so this was your second time there. They after you gave the introduction to PPI's empowerment training on your first trip back in June and July. They asked you quickly to get back. They were hungry for it. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to empower particularly the Christian poor. We work with any poor, but we always start with the Christian poor. We're trying to empower them with biblical economic empowerment so that they can solve their poverty and fund their ministries. We see the church, particularly in the global south, that is plagued with poverty, that it is in bondage because they struggle just to survive themselves, much less have any resources to put behind their ministries. And listen, we believe you need resources to put behind ministries for them to thrive and to do well. So Tim, you've been to the Philippines twice. The Philippines has high poverty rate. A lot of the communities that you're in had high poverty rate. Is PPI, is what we're doing, is it relevant where you were? Are we on the right track? Is this what is needed?
Yes, and yes.
Okay.
Answer to the questions. John, I get to work with some amazing people. We partner with some great organizations, but this is almost an area that's just not really being dealt with at all. And the Christian community is ready for it. They have the right heart, but they don't have the right education level yet to this topic. The groups I work with are all very well trained. Most have college degrees in the leadership side, especially the ministry sides. But the economic side, development's been non-existent.
Yeah.
And so this is all brand new, really, to them, and they're very hungry for it.
Yeah. Good. And so wherever we go, in order to be able to get connection with the Christian nationals in an area, we need to partner with existing ministries and missions organizations that are already working there. They give us the access to begin with. And tell us a little bit about the organizations that you work with that have given the access there in the Philippines.
Yeah, so about a year and a half ago, I started working with One Mission Society, and they established a ministry in the Philippines called Every Community for Christ. So we just call it ECC. But this is a saturation church planting group. And last year, they started over 500 house churches that led over 6,000 people to Christ, just to give you an idea.
Wow. Yeah.
So we're working with 12 networks of partnerships in multiple provinces and multiple training centers. So the access to people and leaders and places where the need is great came quickly, and it's been great, and it's been good for them, because they're on a great mission, John. But this area is very interesting to them as well. Of how do they add this to the training they're doing, but also to their own organization.
Yeah. So One Mission Society, and then the Every Community for Christ initiative in the Philippines. Tell us a little bit about the Filipino denomination and Bible College, and then talk a little bit about Greg Lyons and Global Surge.
Yeah. So One Mission Society helped establish an in-country denomination called Faith Fellowship Philippines. And there's a network of churches a part of that, and they established a Bible college called Faith Bible College, and then that all just worked together with ECC. So they're all people that have worked together for a long time, mostly. Now, as the organization's grown, the partnerships now go to, gosh, I bet we work with 100 different partners from different types of organizations now. And so that part's been great. The issue with Greg Lyons is, Greg's a lifelong missionary, grew up in the Philippines. Our church supported him for many years, and I first met Greg 15 years ago. And when I heard about what he was doing, I had just came back from the Philippines, my first trip to the Philippines 15 years ago. And so his work there has just mushroomed. They take over 100,000 urban poor high school students to summer camp every year. They have a university, they start churches. And when I met with him, he brought 4 of his gunslingers, John, to grill me, that are his guys that he's working with there in the Philippines. And trust me, we spent about 3 hours together, and I got lots of questions. And listen, when we were done, they're like, we want you to come, we want you to teach in our university and be exposed to our leaders. And so again, it's the same thing. Now they've already started in many ways. You've spoke there before as well, a couple of years ago. And so they've already started moving down the road in economic empowerment.
So the Lord has really blessed us with opening doors and connections, and it just seems like it can continue to spread, just with our ability to either teach or to train them to become teachers, which we'll talk about in a minute here. Why don't you just kind of give us an overview of your time there? Kind of give us a feel, a little flavor of what that was like.
Yeah, let me show you some pictures.
Okay.
They say a picture's worth 1,000 words. And I think that's true. So just so you know, so we flew, I had to fly 3 flights to get there. And it's always a challenge, right, with all the travel. Finally got there to Manila, and we did some work in Tarlac, which is another major city. And we came back to Manila for some training. So as you see here is me, one of our ECC leaders, Debbie Galzote, and the group behind me is a group of people who work in ministry, education, and business. Okay. Some are from the Bible College, some work in schools, some are in business, some are church leaders, pastors, and church leaders. And there are multiple provinces represented in that group. And so we did a full day training with this group. Some of these had a little bit of exposure before. And so when we said, hey, we want to do a full day training, they were very excited about that. And the ECC team, John, the ECC team did everything except teach the content.
Okay.
And so I want our listeners to know that, because, they believe in this already. Mm-hmm. They see the value in it already. Mm-hmm. They did all the prep work and the promotion and the meals and all the things that were involved, secured the training locations, everything. And which made my job, more effective, right, and a lot easier. And so I'm so thankful to this group for the buy-in. And they have their own hunger to see their vision fulfilled through it, and have economic empowerment be a part of it.
Good.
Yeah. And so going on to the next one, we went from there. Let me get going here. There we go. We flew 600 miles from Manila, then to the island of Leyte and to Tacloban, which is, this is an island of about 2 million people. And they were expecting us to have maybe 30 to 40 leaders come out, and you can see in the room, it turned out to be 75.
Yeah, great group.
Yeah, it's a great group. They were hosted by a church there that's one of our partner churches in the city. And again, these are all Christian leaders, mostly from church leaders in this group, but there are some business and education leaders there as well. And this is Let Mulholland in the top corner there. She's speaking to the group, casting vision for what ECC is all about and how economic empowerment is a part of it. Mm-hmm. And so that was awesome. And she's a great leader. And then you see this little white tuk-tuk or tricycle is often what they call them. 3 of our pastors, John, rode in that little white. It's basically a motorcycle with a couple of seats in the back. And they rode for over 3 hours in the rain. It was raining a lot, and to get to this training. And so that really moved me. And when we pulled out of there, I was just snapping a picture of them. They were getting ready to take off and head home. So this was an incredible training event, John, and they asked a lot of questions. We had lunch after the training. This was a half day, and just the interaction was great. And this group has been very, very committed to their work.
Yeah. So a couple of observations and questions. The observation is that, you said that this group, they're aggressively planting new churches. They're aggressively doing evangelism. In the last year, they've led 6,000 people to Christ. They have a goal for the next year, I think, to double that. Is that correct? Yes,
12,000 people to recruit 2,000 leaders, start 1,000 house churches that would lead 12,000 people to Christ.
So what you don't see in these pictures, when you look at these people, you think they look like they're dressed well, fed well, like they're doing good. The facilities look pretty good. This doesn't feel like poverty necessarily, but what you don't realize is that when you get outside of these buildings and when you go to these people's homes and the neighborhoods where they live and they minister, it is poverty. They are shacks. They are or block buildings or 1-bedroom little block buildings. All the family sleeps on the floor together. They cook over in a corner. This is their set of clean clothes. I mean, not clean, but really this is their good stuff.
Yeah.
And they are struggling to feed their families, and they are struggling to have resources for their ministries. So if they can do that on almost nothing, imagine what they can do if they are properly funded and they can create the funds that they need for their lives of ministry. So one of the things we say about PPI is our main thrust is not directly evangelism or discipleship or church planting, but we are the force multiplier. We are what comes beside them and multiplies their capacity to do that discipleship work and that evangelism work that is their primary calling. So it's really a partnership in building God's kingdom and growing the church.
Yeah, and I want to give you a little bit of context as well, John, for this group. In 2013, Super Typhoon Yolanda came through this area of islands, and this island of Leyte with over 2 million people, this is what it looked like after. And I stood in a place where there was a memorial for the thousands of people that lost their lives. And So when we go to these areas, they haven't really fully. I mean, can you imagine if the city you lived in was wiped out 9 years ago? How would it be doing today? They haven't fully recovered, to say the least, from it. And again, the efforts are high. There's a lot of great things happening, but the conditions are a challenge. And I want to show you a church I spoke at as well. This is Pastor Eno is his name. He's my Filipino twin brother.
There you go.
And he likes me a lot because I'm the only person there that he's taller than. All right. So we got along great. And man, he is so talented, so committed, great speaker. He sings, plays the guitar, just loves those people. So they went into an area that's called Dulag, that's kind of a village area. And with the help of a businesswoman who donated the land and helped them get a building put up, they really set up a nice facility. And I just wanted you to see, this is the neighborhood outside the church. And so the church has a beautiful little open air facility. Man, it was filled. I'll show you a picture of that in a minute. But I just want you to see up to the right there, that's housing.
Yeah.
So this is what the common housing looks like on this island of 2+ million people. And so the neighboring island of Samar, we traveled there as well. And, it has the same challenges, maybe even at a higher level. And so when we were out with them, John, I realized, this is just an amazing couple. And they're doing an incredible job in this church. We had a great group that day, lots of energy. When you look around the room there, you don't see a lot of the dads because they're out working. And 7 days a week, basically, it's a lot of, it's mostly agriculture or fishing in this area, the two main industries. And so, that's a challenge, right? And that's a part of the challenge of a high poverty community is having the men gone, a lot and not being available. And so thank God for the ladies there that were there with their kids, and they were hungry for God's word, but also very interested in what we're doing with economic empowerment. I could see Pastor Eno coming into this community in the near future, John, and being able to teach our whole course in that community, and then being there, living there among them, and working there, having boots on the ground, year after year. That's so valuable.
So that kind of brings up really our strategy, which is we go in and we do the introductory sessions for a period of time, but what we're trying to do is we're trying to identify those leaders who can become certified trainers of our empowerment training program, so that the nationals, they take it over. They take over the movement, and they keep growing it. They keep expanding it. So it looks like the pastor of this church, in your mind, is one of those people who's ready. And how do you feel in terms of, did you feel like there were several leaders that you just felt like they're motivated, they can do it, they've got the talent, and that's kind of next step is to get them trained and certified?
Yeah. So let me show you another picture of Pastor Eno, just to give you a good picture, John. And here he came and they picked me up at the hotel, and he took me on a tour of Tacloban. And it was fun and terrifying at the same time. There was lots of traffic, and that's their daughter and his wife Juvie. And we stopped at a roadside stand and ate some coconut. It was a great experience there. And he's an example to me of what I see John, and many of the leaders, he and his wife both. And that is that they're really hungry to learn and grow. And they have a very real need to fund both their life and their ministry. And if they just have the funding side, that's the missing part. Listen, he's already well knowledgeable of the Bible. He's a well-trained leader. He's a very capable leader. They both are. They were very instrumental in helping to put together the training that I did in Tacloban, and their daughter, this is their youngest daughter. They have another daughter. I took her seat in the car, in the family car, and she was a valedictorian of her high school. She attended my economic training and came up to me with a lot of great questions after. Man, the capability is there. The hunger is there. But they need more opportunity to learn and grow in this area, and then to begin to put things into practice. And so that's what I see, John, and what I see in Pastor Eno and his wife, I could tell you 100 times over, is there with other leaders. Not to mention this, the ECC team that I work with, this is an executive team for the organization, and they work in university campuses, children's ministry, church planning. They want to have, over the next year, they want to be able to deliver training, the economic empowerment training that we call Create, Own, and Grow. They want to be able to use that and our children's book resources in all of their ministry networks that they're working in. And that includes young professionals on university campuses around Manila and other cities like Tarlac and Tacloban as well. So it's very exciting.
Yeah.
We're still early in the process, although we trained in this go around about 135 leaders. So
the Philippines is an interesting place because it's the harvest there is great. People are very responsive to the gospel there. People are very open to American influence, although it's best, once Americans have done their thing to pass off ministry to the nationals. That's hugely important. It's got to be theirs. They have to own it. They have the talent to do it. They have the calling to do it. So the Philippines is unique because not only is it a place of great evangelism and discipleship and church growth, but it can really be a mission center. To be sending out people around the world. Is that an accurate evaluation of it?
Yeah. So in Greg Lyons' group with Global Surge, they've already sent out 133 missionaries to places like Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand, even Pakistan, and they even have a work in Kenya. The Filipinos have been traveling out of their country to work professionally now for decades. And so they're very gifted at crossing culture, and they have a tendency to have a pretty good educational background. So the value of education is very high in their society. The economics are low, but the education is high. And so they're hungry, man. They want to send out their own missionaries, and they're so capable. Yeah. John, they're so capable. All the groups I work with they're entirely Filipino led. Like they don't need me to lead anything.
Yeah.
They just need us to coach and train and consult and encourage. I focused on education, encouragement, and empowerment, when I was there.
So kind of the classic model that the Western missionaries have used to this point is they will funnel money from the United States, not only to the missionary, but then the missionary will start paying some of the pastors because they're not making enough of a living where they're pastoring their church. Right. And it limits how much staff and how big those churches can grow. It limits what kind of buildings they can build, what kind of schools they can create. And then when they send out missionaries, they will sometimes put American support behind them. But what we're seeing is that's not sustainable because they are exploding and about to explode to a point. There's no way And when you multiply that across the Christian movement, across the global South, you multiply that across all of Asia, all of India, all of the Africa, all of Latin America. There's no way that Western money can fund that. And biblically, it's not correct. The people themselves have the God-given capability, and the principles are biblical on how do you generate the money, how do you create the resources that you need for your life. And this is the great epiphany that we are trying to bring to them. And I like the word epiphany because when we are training them, I don't know if you get this experience, but when I'm training them, I can start seeing the light bulbs going on in their heads.
Oh, yeah.
And many of them come to me and say, I've never heard this. I've never heard this. How come nobody's ever told us this?
Yeah.
And they really start getting fired up about it.
Oh, yeah. They were very fired up about it. And, there's a lot of work to be done, obviously. But when we talk with them about, the very first principle is create the best value you can. When I begin to talk to them about creating value and how even what a ministry looks like that's creating value in their community. I look at a church like Pastorino's that's going into this really high poverty community. They really are working to create value in their community. Mm-hmm. It only helps them do everything else that they're wanting to do.
Yeah.
And so that entry point of creating value is for all human beings, right?
Yeah. We take it for granted so much in the West. We take our economic capability. I mean, honestly, the number one thing that hinders us is not economics in ministry in the U.S. I mean, the number one thing that hinders us is our own faith and willingness to get out there and lead a ministry or drive a ministry. We can usually figure out how to fund it, and we're not struggling every week to feed our families. I mean, sometimes it gets a little tougher than others, but in general, we just take that for granted. And we do not see the struggle that they have in these countries, which is really, it's a bondage. It is a bondage. And you and I and those that are working with us, we really see that what we do is we are setting them free. We are setting their spirit free, their mind free, their capabilities. We're trying to unleash all of that and give them the capability to go to whole new levels of what God has called them to be and do. So I'm really excited about the Philippines. I appreciate you so much for the great work that you're doing there. And I know they love you, and I know you love them. And we can tell by your presentation that that's the way it is. And it's exciting to see. Yeah.
Well, thank you, John. And I do want to say thank you to our partners, who pray for us, who sacrifice and give to support and send us out to do the work, to do the training. And, every time I'm there and I'm getting ready to present to a new group of people, I just give thanks to the Lord for our partners. Yeah. And in my mind, in my heart and mind, they're there with me, in the background, cheering and praying for these people. This isn't about me or you. This is about people who are in really difficult circumstances, but have this great calling from God to impact the world. And, this is a big part of helping them do that. And what you just said, John, talking to them about funding their life and their ministry. So tell me about it's almost never happening.
Give us kind of a look forward in 2023. What do you think you'll be doing in the Philippines? And then kind of what is your vision of what's going to end up happening in the Philippines through this? And then also kind of talk to us about the broader Asia Pacific region. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah. So in this next year, the leadership there of that team said, we want to take the next year and we want to get to a point where we're able to do all the training. So that means putting it into an interactive adult learning format, which works well in their culture. It's about getting the content in their hands and getting certified leaders trained. It's also about doing some more translation work for so in Tacloban's a different language. They don't speak Tagalog.
Oh, really?
So,
Okay.
yeah, so we already have our training in Tagalog, which is great for Manila and the main cities there. But they need so there's another language. So we need to do some more translation. And there's a hunger, John, to introduce the children's book for their strategy of reaching children and families, because they go into a community many times and start with ministries with, children.
Well, you saw the picture of that church that you were in Leyte, and man, the front of the place is just packed with kids, So
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
have to
So
have good children's ministry.
Yeah, so they're asking us to help them with a strategy of getting the book translated and getting it into the hands of families. And that's kind of a secret weapon for us for getting the principles as well into their hearts and minds. And so this next year, my prayer is that all those things are going to happen. There's several steps that we need to take. And then from there, the team I work with is in Vietnam right now. And so, again, they're so capable, John, of going to these other places. So we have ministry partners right now in Vietnam and Cambodia that are both going to be asking us in the near future, hey, will you come here? And so that's a challenge for us, because we got to rise to that challenge. But again, the Filipino people, they're way more capable than I am of going into those settings and crossing the barrier, the culture barriers and the language barriers. These guys are used to speaking multiple languages. They learn language. They can learn a new language in a year and be established in an area. So that's a big part of the vision for all of it, for ECC, for our work, is how can we expand? I did get to spend about a week with the directors of Asia Pacific for OMS while I was there also. And so there's a lot of work happening through there in India, Thailand, as well as what I just mentioned in Vietnam and Cambodia. So I'm expecting all those places to become available to us in the near future.
So, to me, it feels like we are sitting on a keg of dynamite that can explode at any moment. I mean, it already feels like the demand is exceeding our capacity and our resources. And so we're scrambling to play catch up and to get new partners on board with us, and to get new people in our system also doing work with us and for us. And our vision to empower 1 million people by the year 2030 can sound like, oh, that just sounds impossible. But when you realize it can start having a multiplying effect, where we start doubling the amount of people that we're reaching each year by these nationals that are taking out. Now, what's going to be cool is when nationals teach nationals.
Right.
Nationals teach nationals in another country, and we didn't even do it.
Right.
And it's the same model of Jesus and the growth of the church through evangelism. I mean, it's person to person and it multiplies. That's the same model that we're using. It's the movement model. And it could happen. Humanly, no, but by God's power and his grace in it could happen. And that's what we're praying for. So that's our big vision. Our most immediate vision is that we're in a campaign right now to empower 20,000 people between now and the end of next year, by the end of 2023. And we are now in 5 countries in Africa. We are in the Philippines. We are in Guatemala. And other doors are opening up to us. And so we may be in a couple other countries by the end of next year. And it can be done. So we're in a campaign right now to get that done. We need everybody, every person that we can gain as a prayer partner. We need you to be praying for us and for the work and all of our partners around the world. Everybody who can come on board and be a financial partner with us, we need you to be a financial partner in this campaign. You can go to our website, which is peopleprosper.org. And at peopleprosper.org, you see the stories of what we're doing. But right there on our main page, is you can look at the campaign brochure. It's a color brochure that's exciting. It tells a story. It shows the pictures of where we've been, where we're headed, everything that's going on. And so really want to encourage you to check it out and to get on board with us. Well, Tim, what's your last word before we sign off and call it a podcast?
Yeah, well, just pray for God to use us. That's my number one prayer request, is that that God would use us and to touch many lives. And I know that it's happening, but the needs are great, but God is greater. And we just pray to God that He will multiply our efforts. And I know that's the prayer of our partners as well, that God would multiply their gifts and touch many, many lives. So that's my prayer.
Yeah, amen. And so whenever I'm doing a training session in the US or around the world, because what we're trying to do is empower people with God's power, with His truth, with His Spirit, with His presence, then God gives us the ability to be conquerors, to go forth and conquer. So I usually will end a training session by telling our people, hey, go forth and conquer. They pick it up. They're saying that now across Africa, go forth and conquer. And so as we're wrapping this up, we want you to know too that you have a calling from God. You have a purpose from God, and God has working in your life to provide what you're needing for your life and for your purpose. And God's got great things for all of us. So as we're wrapping it up, let me encourage you with this: be blessed and go forth and conquer.